Hi, I'm Darnell with Wave Oven Recipes, and this is my review of the Kalorik MAXX Air Fryer Oven Grill. So I'm going to go ahead and get it unboxed. Okay, so now that everything is all unboxed, basically they give you a good bit of paperwork here. There's like, I guess something that tells you how to connect with them, how to register your warranty. We'll get into the warranty details later in the video. There's a quick start guide to get started quick. Same thing in Spanish. Then there's the manual, and the manual has English and Spanish. And the manual goes on for, let's see, from the beginning to page 32 is how long the manual is. 32 pages, then it repeats in Spanish. And then they give you basically a recipe book here, pretty nice recipe book, with recipes by Chef Jamie Gwynn, So, let's see, the recipe book goes from page 1 to page 43. So 43 pages of recipes, got lots of pictures, so, lots of stuff going on in there as far as recipe book is concerned. And lots of accessories. I do want to point out with the accessories, it may vary depending on what you get, what they bundle with it. Be sure with yours that you examine the details before you purchase of the accessories offered with the one that you buy, so that you know the accessories you're going to get, because it seems that different bundles are made with this cooker that have different things in it. But it has a rotisserie rod and spits. We'll get into those later. Has a dehydration rack here. Has let's see, has an air fry basket. Has a thing you can use to pull rack out. It's got this that you can get your rotisserie rod out with. Kind of helps you get the rotisserie rod out. Got a bake pan here. It looks like it should be non-stick, I guess. It looks like it's coated bake pan. Also have a regular wire rack here. And then there's the grill rack. This is a pretty interesting part here that we'll get into later for sure, the grill rack. And one other thing that it comes with is this charcoal filter. There's a charcoal filter that goes on the back. We'll get into that in a little bit also. So that's a pretty interesting thing that is not in a lot of other cookers. So I'm just going to go to my notes here so that I can talk you through other things that I have notes for. But the power cord you see here, it's a 2-prong polarized cord, and you see it's about that long there. This cooker is 1700 watts. Now we'll see how that performs during our testing and such. Since it's not like 1800 watts, it's 1700 watts. We'll see how that does. As far as these charcoal filters, I wanted to point out that they say that each filter lasts approximately 2 months. So every couple months, they're basically saying if you're using this regularly, you'll need to replace the charcoal filter. And basically, they sell the filters in 3-packs for about $30 each on their website. So that's about $10 per filter. And basically, if you do the math on that, that's basically going to average out to about $5 a month in filter expenses with this cooker. With other cookers that have no charcoal filter, you're not going to have that expense. They do say that, charcoal filter is supposed to make things really smoke-free. So you're doing grilling without any smoke. It's supposed to be like a smokeless grill. So, the $5 a month, that's an expense that you would have to calculate into the cost of this cooker. Because, that's another $60 a year, assuming that the filters always cost what they cost today. That's up to you. Now, the cooker has a temperature range of up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. And the capacity is 26 quarts, so it's a larger size cooker from Kalorik here. I'm going to go over the exterior dimensions. It's 15.9 inches in length, 14.8 inches in width, and 14.17 inches in height. The interior dimensions are 11.75 inches in length, 12.75 inches in width, and 7.75 inches in height. Those are the interior dimensions. And we'll do some independent measuring later. They say that this can hold a large chicken. They don't say what large chicken is, but we'll check out if a large chicken here can fit. A 5-pound chicken to be specific. We'll see if it can fit. Also, it can do a 12-inch pizza, and I guess based on the dimension, that's going to be barely 12 inches pizza. You're not going to get pizzas that are larger in. And they also say that you can hold up to 14 slices of toast. I find that interesting because with a pan this size, getting 14 bread slices on, it's going to be interesting to... I make homemade bread, so my bread's even larger anyway, but I guess I'm just imagining 14 store-bought bread slices. I don't think I could get 14 on this rack here. I mean, I don't know. But that doesn't seem to work out for me unless you're using multiple racks or something. But they did mention, I saw 14 slices of toast. That seemed interesting. They do mention that when you're using this cooker, you need to give it 4 inches of space all around. So give it 4 inches of clearance all around. And so now I'm going to basically show you around the cooker. So you can basically, you see the front, then you see the sides have basically air vents. And then on the back here, there's the exhaust there. I will show you basically inside, there's a drip pan down bottom there. And there's also like this thing they call a drip groove. This thing, it's like right there under the doors. And it's supposed to kind of be a kind of a stopgap for dripping between the doors or things coming out from the door. So that slides in right there. Oops. Make sure I get it back in there right, but slides in right under there. Let's see if I can get it again. Yeah, there it is. So slides in under there, and then when things are dripping, they're supposed to drip down there, and you're supposed to clean that drip groove out. I'm going to spin it around. Sorry about that. Oh, I dropped the thing. Let me get it in there right. Alright. Yeah, it just goes in like that. That's good. So, spin it around, and I'm going to unpack this charcoal filter here. So they give you one. So basically, I guess I'm good for 2 months, and after that I have to buy more. That's interesting. A cooker with continual maintenance costs for a part. Alright, I'm trying to get this package open real quick. Give me a sec. I think I'm going to have to try and maybe cut it to get it open, because it's not coming open. Alright, we've got the charcoal filter out and they got it all taped up. I got to get that off. Alright, so got the charcoal filter here all unpacked and all unwrapped, and it looks like they've got little grooves right here for you to just basically just pop it right in there. So it just simply goes right in like that, and it goes in, and then it's supposed to slide down. Let me see if I can get it. Looks like I'm getting one half and not the other half. But it's supposed to, both halves are supposed to go in and then slide down. Oh, I think you're supposed to press it. Like get it in both sides and then press it. So got both sides in. Oops. Don't pop the charcoal. I think I hit the charcoal brick. I broke the charcoal brick. But I think it'll still work. So got that side in. It's not going in as easily as I thought. Alright, there we go. Got both sides in, slid down. I think I kind of broke the charcoal brick a little bit, but I think it'll still work even though I got some breaks in it. So just showing you a close-up of the back with that charcoal filter in. You see over here on the side it kind of slides into the slots, and then you kind of slide it down after you put it in the slots. My charcoal filter, I guess I made a few dings in it, but I'm hoping it still works. So now I'm giving you a close-up view of the cooker. This display up here will light up later when we plug things in. But basically, before I open up and show you inside, I wanted to show you on the door. It shows you the different rack levels. The highest at dehydrate, then there's this broil fast air fry for faster air frying. Then the middle rack is for air fry. Then there's a bake 2. This is your higher level baking rack, supposed to be used for like cookies and such. Then there's a bake 1 rack. That's a lower level bake rack that's supposed to be used for things that need to be cooked on the bottom like a pie. And then there's a 5th level down bottom. That's the grill rack. And that grill rack, you're supposed to be able to use this grill grate down bottom there. You're supposed to be able to slide it in, well, not slide it, but put it in right over the heating elements. It sits literally right on top of the heating elements. It's got grooves in the bottom of it. It just sits right on the heating elements. So you see these grooves in the back? Those set across the heating elements. So there are 3 heating elements on the bottom there. And you also see the ambient probe is right down there, right where the grill grate will go, so that it can measure the temperature during grilling of that grill grate. So everything is geared towards the grilling function as far as that's concerned. Then inside you've got the rotisserie attachment area here and over here to attach the, see if I can get my, over here, where you can attach the rotisserie there. And then in the back there's nothing. And then to the side here, there's a light over here, and you're supposed to be able to, well, let me show you again. There's a light right there. You're supposed to be able to replace that light. If you tell them the light goes out, they're supposed to send you a new light, and you can unscrew things and get it out and put your new one in. When you look up top there's pretty interesting heating element configuration, because there's like 2 bars, like 1 bar in the front, 1 bar in the back. Then in the middle there's a big spiral heating element in the fan up top to basically blow heat down from the top. So that's how things look inside of this cooker. So now we have the Kalorik air fry oven and grill, which is a 26 quart cooker, next to the Kalorik 16 quart air fry oven. So you can see the difference as far as the size of the 2 cookers. I do want to do a few quick measurements for the sake of comparison. So over the top of this Kalorik 16 quart, it goes to like 13 inches. For the 26 quart air fry oven grill, we got about 16 inches there. When we do height from top to bottom, we see that the 16 quart is about 13 inches high, whereas 26 quart air fry oven grill is about a little over 14 inches high. Now front to back, I'm not going to include the hump. There's a small hump. Well, I guess I should include the hump so that you get the full scope of things. So I'm trying to compensate just a little for the hump and up to the handle, and I'm getting maybe about 12 inches. Whereas with this one, I'm trying to compensate for the hump a little bit, and I'm getting up to the handle about 15 inches there. So even though I guess it looks like there's a big difference front to back, maybe just a couple inches or more after you accommodate for the humps and such. So gonna go inside both and kind of do some interior measuring. Let's open this one here. And inside, front to back, for the 16 quart is about maybe 10.5 inches. inside, front to back for 26 quart. I'm reading, it's like just at maybe a little over 13 inches. No, not over. Sorry, maybe just at or a little under. I would say maybe just a little under 13 inches. So maybe on point with the spec that I read out earlier. But going to do side to side on the inside of the 16 quart. Side to side on the inside. We get about, maybe about 10.5 inches there on the 16 quart. Side to side on the inside of the 26 quart cooker is, it's actually, it's about almost 13 inches. Almost 13 inches there is what I'm getting there on my independent read. Now, top to bottom, inside, I'm getting a little over 7 inches there on the 16 quart. For the 26 quart, say top to bottom, I'd say maybe just slightly under 8 inches, just slightly. So those are our measurements between the two cookers. You will be able to fit more things into the 26 quart than you can into the 16. So if you've not seen much about the 16 quart cooker, there is a full review and other cooks of this here on the channel, and there's like over 800 videos on this channel, reviews of lots of different cookers and such, including this one has its own videos with reviews and cooks and such that you can check out as well. So now we have the Kalorik next to the Cuisinart air fry toaster oven with grill, so similar class of cookers here. We see that height wise, maybe the Kalorik's maybe just a tad taller, and we see front to back they're very similar. They look very similar in a lot of respects. The Kalorik is maybe just a little larger overall. And when we open up inside, you can see that the Kalorik, I mean height-wise, maybe just a tad more space. It does set a little lower than the Cuisinart, so it sets lower and it rises a little higher. So you got a little more room there in the Kalorik. I'm going to take the rack out and just compare racks so you can see. The racks are very similar in size, like one basically, I don't know if the Kalorik rack, well the Kalorik rack is too slim, no it's too wide, sorry. Kalorik rack is too wide to go into Cuisinart. Cuisinart rack, it's just a little too slim to go into the Kalorik. So the Kalorik is rack-wise just a little bigger, just a small tad bigger. It's kind of hard to tell looking at them, but you can tell when trying to put one rack inside of the other one. So I'm just going to put the originals back. I'm going to get the grill plate, and I think you see a much bigger difference on the grill plate. Now this is the Cuisinart grill plate here, and this is the side with the grill mark, well, next to grill marks here. And this is the Kalorik grill plate. Now you see the Cuisinart grill plate fits well inside the Kalorik grill plate. So, you know, there's like inside with lots of room to spare. So the Kalorik is going to be able to do a whole lot more grilling for you than the Cuisinart is. But that gives you an idea of the differences between the two and, you know, their plate size and such. And if you want to see more with measurements and other details, there's a full review of this Cuisinart air fryer toaster oven with grill also here on the channel. Okay, so now we have the Kalorik next to the Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fry oven. And I think you probably can tell that the Ninja Foodi is larger overall than the Kalorik, even though the Kalorik, because it has a display on the top here, is just a little taller, just a tad, but in general it's smaller than the Ninja Foodi is as far as overall size. And full review, cook videos and such of this Ninja Foodi also here on the channel. Now I do want to show you a difference in the rack size, just so you can witness the difference here. The Kalorik rack can fit inside the Ninja Foodi, so smaller rack there, so you know you can't get as much into the Kalorik as you can into the Ninja Foodi. And I do want to do one other demonstration for you. I'll show you one other thing. I've got a 13-inch bake pan with no handles here. This can fit into my Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fryer oven. I can close it up, bake all kinds of things in there that are large. But this 13-inch bake pan with no handles, you try and get it into the Kalorik, it's not going to fit. If you put it in like this, it's not going to fit. There's no way to get that 13-inch bake pan with no handle, even in the larger size Kalorik, but it fits just fine in the Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fry oven. So now I'm going to check if a large chicken will fit comfortably. This is a 5-pound chicken. It's frozen. I won't be cooking it in this video. This is just for demonstration purposes. We see when we put it on in there, things fit very comfortably. It could, in my opinion, definitely hold even a larger size chicken. So yes, it can hold a large chicken, no problem. So now I've turned the light off so that you can see the display really well. And I'm going to do an initial plug-in of the cooker, and we'll see what happens when we plug it in. So we see when we turned it on, well, when we plugged it in, I didn't turn it on, but plugged it in, it gave us some light up, gave us a light up of Kalorik here so that we know who made the cooker. And so that's basically what happens when you start things up. If I can hit the start stop button or the dial to kind of wake the cooker up. So now it's awake. And what I want to do, I'm going to click oven, and I'm going to go down to toast because I want to see what the default is for toast. And we see the default for toast is 5 minutes, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I want to remember that because I want to see if later when the cooker's hot, if maybe it adjusts down. But to start cold cooker, toast does 400 degrees 5 minutes. And some cookers are smart enough when the cooker's hot to adjust themselves for their default for toasting or for their setting for toasting to know, hey, I'm hot, I'm not going to cook this toast as long as I normally would if it were cool. But keep that in mind. So now I'm going to do a temperature test. I've got the iGrill 2 ambient probe in there on the rack and going to close up. And here you see my iGrill 2 to track temperature. If you're interested in this, you can find the link to my Amazon shop in the video description. Nothing in this video is sponsored, but in the video description I do have a link to the Amazon shop, and you can see the temperature gauge section, and you can see this and check it out if that's something you're interested in. But what I want to do now is temperature test, so I'm waking the cooker up, and I'm going to click the air fry button, and I'm going to leave it on air fry. What I'm going to do, I'm going to tap to confirm that it's going to be air fried. I'm going to turn to 30 minutes of cooking time, and then I'm going to tap the temperature. Let's see if I can, well, I can't go up to 500 on the air fry. It looks like I'm going to have to go over to the oven functions to grill so I can get that 500 I want. So let's see, I think, yeah, let's see, no, that doesn't do it. Alright, yeah, if I hit that, then I can hit oven. So it looks like to get that, what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to switch and put in, sorry about that noise it's making. I'm going to have to put in the air fry, well, the grill rack, and then put the probe somehow configured on the grill rack to try and measure temperature. So, okay, I kind of got it roughly in there. I couldn't get it in this other groove here too well. So, it'll be setting a little above. I mean, they have their probe underneath, right under. Now, their probe, this is interesting. My probe's going to be reading on top what the, you know, where the food and stuff is going to be during a cook. Their probe is underneath right by a heating element and underneath the grill plate. So I would suspect that theirs is going to read a little hotter being right under there. Yeah, it's going to tell you what things are on the rack, on this rack, but it's going to be kind of, I think, a little less than what would be for the actual food that's in the cooker on top, because it's kind of reading down there right by a heating element and kind of trapped underneath. Let's see. I want to try and make sure it's going to stay still and not move around too much. Alright, so it's basically in there. It's kind of sticking up some, but I think that gives a better impression of where the food is. Yeah, it's not going to let me know exactly what the grill plate is, but it's going to be close. And so it'll give us some assessment of the temperature, even though they say that theirs gives the best because it's right there on the plate and it's giving the temperature of the grill plate. But we'll see what happens. So I'm going over to grill, and I'm going to try and tap in, see if I can go up to 30 minutes of cook time. Yeah, leave it at 30 minutes and 500 degrees Fahrenheit. And going to go ahead and hit start with that. And we'll see what happens as far as the temperature now. Alright, so 10 minutes have passed. My ambient probe is reading 404 degrees and rising. The cooker says that it's reached 500 degrees. And so there is a discrepancy in the temperature read for sure. And I think, this is going to be interesting as far as this cooker and cooks go, because it's got the probe down bottom there. As soon as that metal gets hot, it's reading like, 500 degrees for the metal getting hot. And maybe the metal itself, maybe it is 500 degrees, but the probe just above it is reading almost 100 degrees less. I'll just say in my experience that is a big discrepancy to me, that it's that far apart. I want to check on top here just to feel. The top feels warm but not really hot. Like I can keep my hand here on top and I'm okay. On the side here, it's a bit warmer. I don't want to keep my hand there. On this other side, yeah, it's cooler on this side. I can keep my hand over on this other side fine. In the back, yeah, it's well, it's kind of hot. I can tap it, but it's kind of hot back there. Down bottom here, I can't really get down bottom. There's that little drip catch pan there, but it's feeling, that pan feels hot. That little drip, it's plastic, but it feels hot. The thing feels hot. And down, I guess if I put my finger down under the side, I'm okay. So I'm not hot. I'm not feeling heat under the cooker. This little thing here feels a little hot though. And it's been 14 minutes now. I'm still reading a solid, well, between 400 and 399. It's still teetering, while they're still saying 500. So we'll have to end the temperature test with that. I'm going to check what can happen if I make adjustments on the fly. I can hit the button here, and I can basically turn the dial up to set time. Now I can just let it set and it'll automatically take, or I could have pressed the button a couple more times for it to take. When I open the door with the grill, it doesn't, well yeah, actually it does auto pause. Yeah, so it did auto pause with that. The timer still looks like it's ticking, but it did stop the fan, so that's cool. So you are able to get in there, open up, the fan will stop, so it'll stop blowing whatever it's blowing on you. That's good. Alright, so what I've done, I used some silicone tongues to move things around a bit. I've got the iGrill 2 probe up on the rack that's like second from the highest. That's like a air fry rack there. And so I'm closing up now. We see inside it's still like 180 degrees. It's just doing kind of a ending cook fan run right now is what it's doing. But I'm going to turn it back on, hit air fry, and I'm going to set it out to 30 minutes. up temperature to 450. And I want to see what happens with air fry for the temperature read. We see it's reading like 200 in there now, but hit start. And I'm going to let this run for 10 minutes just to see what it says for air fry at 450. Alright, so 10 minutes with air fry, and the cooker says it to 450, but my ambient probe is reading 500. It's right there underneath that fan with the big heating element blowing that hot air down on it. It's reading 500. So now I'm going to basically stop the cooker, and while it's still very hot, I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm going to go over to toast, and I just want to see what happens when I'm here at toast and I hit start. We see that it kicks in the toast, but it doesn't adjust. So basically, toast is just going to run what it's defaulted to, what it's set to. It's not going to recognize that the cooker is already hot. Now, something else I want to check, turning the cooker on, clicking air fry, we see it doesn't remember that I had 450 30 minutes, so there's no memory of what you cooked last at all with this cooker. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so what I'm doing now, and it's good to do with any new cooker, I've got the accessories in that were not already in there when it was hot earlier, and I'm just going to turn it on, and I'm going to do an air fry for like 20 minutes with them at 450, just to do a burn off of any residue that may be on them. I did wash everything well beforehand. Everything was washed, but I'd still do a burn off to burn off any residues or anything that may be on the parts. They say that the burn off, the stuff that burns off, is safe. You know, I'm not a lab tech as far as, you know, testing what's, you know, materials are in these things as far as their safety or whatever they put out, but you know, it's good to do a burn off to burn off any of the residues and such, and they do recommend that. I think they mentioned like 20 minutes on grill at 500, but since I've already done the grill plate and such, I'm just doing these 450, 20 minutes, and let those cook off, and then we'll continue. So let's talk about the functions on the cooker. It has a lot, so I'll try and run through some. Some I'll stop and give a little chat to about some of the details, but basically the way that you use this cooker, and I do want to point out there's this light button here too where you can control the light, and it seems like there's no way to control the chime or stop that chime from happening. I'm sorry about that, but that's the way it is. There's basically, to use any of these functions here, you have to hit either air fry or oven. There are air fry functions that you get a list of here, and if I tap that again I hit oven, then I get the oven functions here. Now when I go to air fry, I do want to point out that with air fry, they do mention that you should shake your food halfway through and use the bake pan underneath to catch drippings if you going to have something air frying that's going to be kind of drippy. And so also another one I wanted to show you is the chicken function. When you go over the chicken, you see it automatically shows this rotisserie icon to show that it's going to spin. It's doing 50 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. That's because it's assuming you're going to rotisserie a whole chicken. If you're going to be doing chicken parts, they recommend using the grill function that we will get into in a little bit. Some other air fry functions, there's warm, there's ribs. I'm not going to turn to each because it's going to make the chime, but there's ribs, shrimp, steak, wings, bacon, fish, corn, fries, dehydrate, defrost, and veggies. Now each one is kind of like a preset of a time and temperature, but I'm just going to go back to air fry here, and I'm going to go in for time. I want to see what the maximum amount of time is. Well, wait a minute, let me go back to air fry again. Go in on air fry. I want to see what the maximum amount of time is I can do on the air fry. It looks like I can go out. I'm just going to keep going. Alright, looks like 9 hours 59 minutes is the maximum I can do there. And if I go in, well, hold on, it lost that. Let me go back to air fry. And I tap it again, I go to temperature. That's basically how you have to do things. You tap once, do time, tap again, do temperature once you got your setting picked. So let me do time, temperature, and let me see how low temperature goes. We know we get between 450, 500 max depending on setting. Air fry goes down to 140, but I'm going to try one of these other settings. Let me go down to dehydrate. So dehydrate, I'm going to tap in here, see how high I can go in time. With dehydrate, max is also 9 hours 59 minutes, but I can go down to 80 degrees. So temperature ranges on this cooker overall at 80 degrees Fahrenheit to 500. Time range can go up to 9 hours 59 minutes is basically your maximum amount of time that you're allowed. Let's see, something else I wanted to talk about. If I go over to the oven functions, you see you got bake, broil, pastry, pizza, proof, roast, toast, grill. They do recommend that you give things a preheat when you're using most of these settings here. I will say that toast has a funny discrepancy in the manual. It mentions a preheat for toast in the manual, but we see that there's no preheat on toast, and you don't preheat on toast. I think they made a copy paste error on that one. But the grill function, they mentioned that you should flip food halfway through. With air fry, I mentioned that you have to do like a flip or turn halfway through. So now I'm going to show you how to use the rotisserie in this cooker. Basically, you've got your rod and spits, and what you're going to do, you got to take these screws here and you got to turn them so you can get the rods in. Alright, once you've got the screws turned so you can get the rods in, you basically stick the rod in one side and stick it all the way through. Let's see if I can get this through here. Give me one sec. I think I didn't turn the screw far enough, but there we go. Now I got it far enough. So stick the rod on through one side. Don't put it on the other side yet. You basically tighten it down on one side. Then you take whatever meat you have after you've tightened down one side, and you stick that meat through, lock it in there on that side good. Then you take the other side and you do the same on the other side to basically lock it in. And so we get into the rod. Let me get that screw right. Of course, you want to make sure you got these turned down enough before you get your meat on. So you put that other side in, lock that meat in good, and once you got that meat locked in good, you tighten that screw there, get it nice and tight, and you got your meat locked in. And then you're going to go ahead and put your rod in here, and what you're going to do, one side of this has kind of like a little groove and the other side is just straight. So you bring it in and you put that straight side in, put the other side in on that groove there, and that's where things rest. You can also do that with this tool here. You could have the food on this tool and try and put it in there. I usually have like some heat resistant gloves or something. I like to put my hands in there and do it that way. But once you've got it in there, I'm going to show you how to operate the cooker with the rotisserie. Once you got your food all in there, you basically wake the cooker up. And of course, you know, the chicken setting has that rotisserie auto built in, but let's say you don't want to use the chicken setting, you want to do your own custom thing. You could do something like, since chicken was an air fry setting, you could say, well, I'm going to do an air fry setting with the rotisserie, and you know, you could set your time and temp, so like you press once and you do time out to, let's say 50 minutes, and temp, let's say I want to take my temp up to 450, you could do that. And then what you have to do is you have to hit start. Once you hit start, then the rotisserie button is available to you, and you press the rotisserie button. Once you press the rotisserie button, things inside start spinning. Turn the light on there. You can see that the rotisserie is in there spinning, and that's how you basically do things with the rotisserie if you want to do a customized setting running the rotisserie. You can use the rotisserie on pretty much any of those settings, even I think the oven settings will allow you, let me stop that, do an oven setting. Let's just say it was a bake, and I hit start. Yeah, even on a bake, I could do rotisserie on a bake. So pretty much any of the settings will let you use the rotisserie that way. And once you're done, you can just hit stop, or you can hold the stop button, turn the cooker off all the way. Sometimes that fan will still keep running after a cook is done, and you can let that fan run. It'll stop on its own after a few minutes. Now once the cook is done and you want to get your food out, as far as rotisserie cooks, you can open up. If you want, you can use this tool. Like I said, if you got some heat resistant gloves, you can go in there by hand. But you lift one side up, pull that other side out, and you'll have your food on there, and that's how you get it out. And you could do the same to get it in too if you wanted to do that. So now I'm going to do a toast test. I got a couple slices of my homemade almond flour whole wheat bread here. You can find the recipe here on this channel. And this is room temperature bread. It has not been in the refrigerator. I'm just going to put a slice in that has butter, a slice that doesn't. We'll see how they toast up. So waking the cooker up, hit the oven function, go over to toast. I'll use the default. We'll see what happens. 5 minutes, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Hit start, and we'll let that cook up. Alright, so things cooked for 5 minutes. And almond flour whole wheat bread does take a little more to cook it than your store-bought bread. But we see that the, well, if I can get my spatula under here, just right. Let's see. We see that the butter was melted on the bread, and the back of the bread didn't get a hard toast with that. I guess I'd have to use something higher and stronger. The bread does feel hard, so it did get a toast, but not enough to really make any marks or anything of that sort at 5 minutes, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So probably need a bit more than that if you're doing a bread that doesn't cook up as readily as your store-bought bread. But I'm going to go ahead and enjoy me a little buttered toast. So now I'm making some almond flour chocolate chip cookies. And I'll flash the ingredients on the screen real quick, but I've gone into detail about how to make these in some other videos. But while I'm doing this, I'm going to start warming up the cooker since it should have a preheat for baking. So I've got it on oven bake. I'm going to leave it at, I'm going to bring it down, even though for cookies, they like 375 though. For cookies and their recipe recommendations. I'm going to bring it down to 350 because I've made this recipe for air fryer ovens, and usually 350 works best in my opinion. So 350, 25 minutes, hitting start. Whoops, hit it too quick. So I'm going to bring that back down to 350 and hit start. And going to let things basically warm up. I'll just let it run for like 10 minutes on, you know, to basically get itself warm, and then I'll, by then, be done laying out my cookies, because I'm going to have a dozen cookies here on the bake pan that I've sprayed with some extra light olive oil. And then I'll get them on in and we'll see how these bake up. Okay, so almost 5 minutes have passed and it's gone solid. So I guess it feels it's already reached the 350. So I'm just going to go ahead and put things in when it's at an even 20 minutes and just have an even 20 minutes to count down from. And so I'm just waiting for that moment because this cooker doesn't show seconds, it only shows minutes. Even when you got 1 minute left, it shows 1 minute without letting you know how many seconds are left. Alright, so I'm going to put them on in now. Put them on the first bake level, which is made for cookies, and close up. I'm going to go ahead and let things continue to bake. Since the light keeps turning out and stuff like that, I'll just bring you back when they're done. Alright, I let these go for the full 20 minutes and I neglected to spin them halfway through, even though you're supposed to spin things in this cooker halfway through because they say that the back cooks hotter than the front. But we'll see what we have anyway. So, going out of here. We do see the back cook more. I think they'll be fine. I'm going to set them aside and let them cool. So for a grill test, I've got a couple of boneless, skinless chicken breast halves here. And so I'm going to season them with some Old Bay and lemon pepper seasoning. And going to go ahead and start warming things up while I get things seasoned up. So hitting the, well, I forgot you can't just hit the button. You have to hit oven and then spin the grill. I want to think like I just hit grill and go. But 500 degrees, it's got 13 minutes. I'm going to up it just to 15. I think it might, just in case it takes 5 for it to get up to 500, but you're supposed to give 8 to 10 minutes for grilling chicken breasts and flip them halfway through. So hitting start, it's still hot from the cookies at 266, but we'll get them on in there when things are warmed up and start grilling up the chicken breasts. I'm going to go ahead and do some seasoning in the meantime. Alright, it took 6 minutes to preheat, and I'm going to basically use some extra light olive oil to try and pull a little non-stick on that grate there. So there we go. Got a little smoke coming from that, so I think the 500's a little above the oil's smoke point. Something to keep in mind there. Not good when you let your oil start smoking. It's supposed to be a smoke-free grill, right? So we'll see what happens. I'm going to let things cook up for a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and also push the time out to 10 minutes. So we'll just do like 5 on this side, flip, see what happens on the other side too. Alright, 5 minutes have passed. I'm going to flip them over, see how things look. Got some nice grill marks on there for sure. We'll let them go ahead and cook some more. Alright, the chicken's got some more minutes to cook, but we got the cookies here that have cooled down. I'm just taking one off. You can see the bottom. Not too bad on the bottom. I mean, it's not like black burnt. It's cooked. So you can see one in the back that got more cooking. You know, yeah, I should have spun them. We know. So I'm going to take one from the front where they weren't as cooked and just go taste. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. So it's able to bake. Just make sure you spin. Alright, 10 minutes, 5 on each side is done. I use a thermopin to check temperature real quick. Let's see. I think we're reading like 108 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, these are not done. They're not done. So they're going to need more time. So, basically getting things back on. Getting back over the grill. And let's give it another 10 minutes. We'll just start with that. And maybe after another 5 I'll flip them over again. And so I guess I'll have had 10 on one side, and then after I flip them I'll have 10 on the other. And we'll see what happens. Alright, gotta go ahead and flip. I think they're just, you know, got some thickness to them. So that thickness is just causing things to take longer. I've had no smoke issues at all. That is good. I know I could use a thermometer to read the temp while they're cooking in there, but I wanted to just go ahead and cook them as is, and we'll get them out in 5. Alright, based on observation, even though I was going to give them the full 5, I'm going to just check the temp again. This looks like they could be done. We're real close to 165 now. Yeah, 170 there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull them both, and I think they're close enough to about done to pull them. I'm going to just go ahead and take them out. I think that last bit, seeing that it's kind of like a difference in, I guess, the different places, I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be okay with that. So we're going to go ahead and, without running it any harder, we'll just let them, they can get a little extra cook just sitting right here. The interesting thing is I've got the door open and there's smoke, but it's not like it's coming out the front. The fan is still sucking that through the back, so still no smoke issues, even though things are smoking with the door open. That's pretty nice. I guess as long as the fan runs would be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pull them out now and set them out here. So we'll let them go ahead and just rest there, but I think they're pretty good. They're looking really pretty done to me. And I'm going to let them just rest for about 5 minutes, and during that time they'll do probably a little bit of carryover anyway. So I've given the chicken breast some time to rest. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one. We see it's done all the way through. It's done. We'll just cut the other one just to show you. Also done all the way through, nice and juicy. Gonna go ahead and thank God for a piece here and go ahead and taste that. Alright, you all know I like to make sure that I chew it in full before I start talking. Very tender and juicy. Very tender and juicy. Tastes great. So everything grilled up nice. You see it's got the real nice grill marks. So cooker did a great job with the grilling. It's able to do the baking. The toasting, depending on the bread you use, you may need a different amount of time. But it's able to do everything that we tasked it with today. And so I want to talk about cleaning the cooker. Basically cleaning all the accessories except that crumb tray and the dehydrator tray are dishwasher safe. They don't tell you which rack level, but the dehydrator tray that I showed earlier and the crumb tray down there, they say are not dishwasher safe. And basically they say that you can clean the clean the drip groove, this thing here, after every use. You should. It'll fill up with water from condensation, and so it should be emptied and cleaned after every use. Basically you want to use like a warm soapy rag, nothing abrasive, no metal scouring pads or anything that's going to scratch anything. And basically wipe everything down with a warm soapy rag, then use a wet one to wipe things off. You can soak things to, like the grill rack, you can soak that to get some of that stuff off. And like they said, everything is dishwasher safe, although I personally do everything by hand. I like to personally do mostly things by hand, except for maybe that air fry basket. That'd probably be the only thing that I would do in the dishwasher. So let's talk about the warranty. This cooker comes with a 1-year warranty, and basically it's at their discretion whether or not it'll be on them. Basically, once you have an issue, you contact them. They'll decide if they will cover all the cost or not. So it's kind of left up to them based on your situation when you call, and I guess what they determine they want to do. Who knows? Maybe if they're selling enough of those charcoal filters, they'll pick up the tab. I don't know. But basically, as I said, nothing in this video is sponsored. That's why I can talk like that about any company I want. But hey, I like the job that they did on the cooker there. Everything turned out nice. Anyway, with all that said, in the video description, lots of ways to help the channel, such as donations, cookbook, memberships. There's a referral link. You can buy this cooker through the referral link, pay the same price, and help the channel. Also, if you use that link to basically do all your shopping, it helps the channel out if you just start there, even if you don't buy stuff that's on the shop there. So, if you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up, share the video with a friend, leave your comments, subscribe, hit that notification icon, and good eating.